Information and Communication Technology presents Educational Satellite Television Programs.
Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Welcome to today's lesson on ecological succession. In our last lesson, we learned about the nutrient cycle. We studied how nutrients are transferred within the ecosystem, and we described the carbon cycle. Today, we will learn about ecological succession. We will define the term succession and describe primary and secondary succession while looking at examples of both. This should be a very interesting lesson, class. Let us begin by discussing what the term succession means. Succession describes a series of changes that occur over time, in order of sequence or in the course of events. Now that you know what the term means, try to come up with a definition of ecological succession. Please write your answers down and we will review it in a few minutes.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you were able to write down a definition. Ecological succession describes the gradual process by which ecosystems change and develop over time. As we discussed in previous lessons, ecosystems are always changing. Materials are moved around an ecosystem through various nutrient cycles. In order to understand succession, it is necessary to understand the following terms: habitat, population, community, and ecosystem. The term habitat describes the place where organisms live. The term population describes a group of individuals of the same species in a particular location. The term community describes all of the populations of plant and animal species in a given area. The term ecosystem describes the community together with the physical and chemical environment in a particular area. The ecosystems that are present today did not always exist. In fact, most ecosystems began on a bare patch of ground. However, a patch of ground will not stay bare for very long. It will soon be populated by a variety of plants. During the process of succession, the species present in an area will gradually change. The conditions on bare ground favor pioneer plant species. These are often species which grow best in conditions where there is little competition for space and resources. An example of a pioneer species would be moss. These species are able to change the abiotic conditions of a region, making them less harsh. The term abiotic describes the non-living part of an ecosystem. Once the abiotic conditions are made more suitable, other species are able to colonize the area. The new species contend with the pioneer species for resources and nutrients. The new species usually dominate the pioneer species, while changing the abiotic conditions yet again. This change allows for more species to enter the ecosystem, and the process continues. The stages throughout succession are called sear. Once an area has an abundant plant population, herbivores that feed on the plants begin to colonize the area. The excrements from animals are also important for the ecosystem. Excrement provides an excellent source of nutrients for the soil. Organisms such as fungi and bacteria, functioning as decomposers, dwell in the waste products. When herbivores populate an area, carnivores will typically colonize the area as well. Now that there are many species of plants and animals in the area, the number of possible interactions between species has greatly increased. The simple food chains of the early pioneer stage, when only a few species were present, have developed into more complex food webs. Students, let us complete an activity. Please match the following terms with the correct definition.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello again, students. Let us review your answers. The term community describes all the populations of plant and animal species in an area. The term seer describes the stages of succession. The term ecosystem describes the community along with the physical and chemical environment of an area. The term abiotic describes the non-living part of an ecosystem. The term habitat describes the place where an organism lives. The term population describes the group of individuals of the same species in a specific location. If you matched each term correctly, well done. There are two types of ecological succession in plant life: primary and secondary succession. When succession starts with bare or uncolonized ground or a newly formed pond, it is called primary succession. Moss growing on bare ground, as we described previously in this lesson, is an example of primary succession. When succession occurs on an area that has been changed or altered, such as land that has been farmed or damaged due to a forest fire, it is called secondary succession. Secondary succession happens after the initial succession has been disrupted and some plants and animals still exist. It typically occurs faster because the soil is already present and there is no need for pioneer plants. Also, seeds and roots of plants may still exist in the soil. Students, for our last activity, please pair up with a partner and explain what ecological succession is. Then, describe the difference between primary and secondary succession.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up! Let's get back to our lesson.
Thank you for participating, everyone. Ecological succession is the process in which ecosystems change and develop over time. Primary succession occurs on a bare or uncolonized area, while secondary succession occurs on an area that was previously colonized but underwent a change or alteration, such as a forest fire. If you discussed similar ideas with your partner, terrific job. This brings us to the end of our lesson. Today, we discussed ecological succession. We described the role of pioneer plant species, and we also learned about primary and secondary succession. Until next lesson, thank you, teacher. Thank you, students.